It allows you to scale quicker. It lets you be more nimble. That's really the benefit of using Power Platform.
In all honesty, you guys are sounding like superheroes right now because you're not only working with clients to pull out requirements, you're also, like you said, co-developing these apps together.
You're taking that passion that those people have and pulling the requirements out of that. They have skin in the game. If you can step back and think creatively around what's happening and what they're doing.
You need to be nimble. You need to be able to really think outside the box.
I don't care what challenge somebody throws at me. I'm going to take it head on and figure it out. If you're not scared to do something off the beaten path of what you're used to doing, you're going to succeed in everything that you do.
What are maybe some other additional skills that are necessary to be a really good consultant or to be a really good architect?
I think what it really comes down to is
Hey, welcome to this week's episode of Power Talks. My name is Griffin, the host of the Citizen Developer channel, and today I am joined by Tanya Wanninger. And Tanya is a director in rapid solution development at Hitachi Solutions, which is a Microsoft partner and IT consulting firm that largely deals with Microsoft Dynamics and the Power Platform. Now, with over 10 years of experience in the Microsoft consulting space, ranging from consultant to architect to director, Tanya knows how to drive projects to success and bring process enhancements to business through software. Tanya's true passion is helping others become their best version of themselves and make sure to deliver the best results for the customer. Tanya, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I'm super excited to have you on. Not every guest, but the majority of our guests, and maybe it's because I'm biased because I work in CE, are in kind of the dynamics realm, whether that's CE side, ERP side. I would love to start our conversation around how you are slightly different of a guest in that perspective, in the sense that you're a part of this rapid solution development team, as we call it at Hitachi. I kind of just wanted to give you the floor on what does this mean and what does rapid solution development look like?
Well, rapid solution development, as you obviously know, doesn't really mean that we have to build on a Dynamics platform like CE or F&O. Basically, what we're doing is we're allowing customers to build things on Power Platform, automate, do that type of work without being constricted to some built-in solution. We empower citizen developers to actually use their creativity to perform their own solutions, so they don't rely on another team or somebody like Hitachi eventually. So we just help them find their way.
Interesting. So what does that find their way? What does that kind of look like in the real world?
Well, basically what it looks like is we can talk to a customer, and the customer might have some people who are dabbling in the Power Platform, building Power Automates, building some type of automation, maybe a bot. And they know what they're doing in that sense, but they don't really know how to govern it, how to maintain it, how to move it forward to from a development state to a production state. So really what we do is we go in and we try and help them learn how to start from the start and build, and so they can continue moving forward and basically building their own solutions eventually. Take their creativity and move it to light, and give them a good way to do that with training, governance information, how to control SharePoint and Power BI and Power Automate. Right now with Copilot, how to use that, how to use it effectively, efficiently, and within some sort of guidelines, so they don't expose themselves to negative things. So that's what we try to do.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. So that spurs another question here. So when I kind of think about a CE project, a lot of times it's, we're gathering the requirements, and then I'm going and making the enhancements in Power Apps for, say the sales app, right? The dynamic sales app. So on an RSD project, are you guys building apps, or it almost sounds more it's like a we're enabling companies to be able to go and build their own apps. Am I misunderstanding that?
No, you're not misunderstanding it. We do build apps. So sometimes they just don't have the skills to do it. So what we do is we kind of, in essence, co-develop in some senses. Sometimes they're working to get something done really, really quickly and they don't want to take that learning curve. So then we build that app and we help their citizen developers, understand the nuances of, let's say, building a custom page or maybe building a Canvas app, a very complex Canvas app, and what are the steps that you should take to build it correctly, how to do it within, you know, a way that is supported and you can understand it and it's available to be able to, I don't know, maybe support it in the future. So
Yeah,
that's what we're doing there. And governance is one of those things too. We concentrate a lot on governance because a lot of times you get these in here and they don't really understand what the effects are when you build something. What is that footprint? How do you maintain it? How do you take that pressure off of your IT department to, you know, not have them be so focused on things and let maybe different departments do their own building because they understand what they can and can't do, what the repercussions of what they're doing are. So
yeah,
that's what we try to do is we try to help teach as we go. So it's a very collaborative environment.
yeah,
We allow them to build, we help them build their backlogs, fulfill their requirements, and try and figure out what they want to do. And then we let them prioritize it. Sometimes we build them, sometimes we help them build them.
yeah.
So it's
Okay,
it's kind of both ways.
you're okay. So in all honesty, you guys are sounding like superheroes right now because I'm trying to think. I mean, and if any clients on projects that I've worked on, just know I loved working with you, but I sometimes feel like just working with clients to pull requirements out can be a lot.
Mhm.
What is it like? You're not only working with clients to pull out requirements, but it also sounds like you're also, like you said, co-developing these apps together. I mean, I don't know what's that experience like as far as navigating those relationships and conversations. And this is we could probably talk about this for an hour, but
Probably good.
um, yeah, I don't know. What are your insights into now co-developing with a customer and delivering the best solution?
Oh, think about it this way. I mean, I've done I don't know how many CE projects, and you're trying to pull information out of people and trying to get that out. Now, try and take something that somebody's really passionate about, that they've maybe built it in the past, or it's an app that they use every day and they want to make it better. They want to be able to bring it up to the 21st century or, basically take it and make it their own. You're taking that passion that those people have and pulling the requirements out of that based on what they've done, their experiences with it, how they've used it. It's so much easier in a sense because they have, skin in the game with that. They're developing it. They're trying to make it their own. They're working towards what could make their life easier and better. Whereas sometimes, in other projects like some of the CE projects is somebody, three levels up from me made a decision that we're going to go down dynamics and we're going to use CE and I have to do this and, I don't know what my life is after that. This is people who say, I need this to make my life better so I can do other things. And I think that's really the difference between, the RSD team and, CE teams. Now, in our department, we also work in CE. So, like right now, I'm working on a project where we're building apps and our team's engaged, but we're also engaged with the CE team and with Modern Solutions and other teams. So it's not like we only do these individual things where they're doing their own development. We're doing all the development for these custom pages and teaching them, in essence, how to support them once they go. So really, there's so many different ways and so many different things that we can do in our department, but the thing that we can do that a lot of CE can't do is quick. We have an app. We could put it to production next week. Whereas in the CE, you're building for months potentially to get an entire solution done. Whereas we don't have those restrictions.
Sure. I A little bit of a pivot, but another question is, in your kind of experience, how often do you see projects where clients utilize the Power Platform without utilizing Dynamics?
I would say it's probably a majority of our clients don't use Power Platform, or not Power Platform, but CE type things. Um, let's say they're putting something from SAP over and using Excel spreadsheets and stuff like that. We see that a lot. Um, Potentially they use maybe CE or Dynamics in a minor way, and maybe they're just getting a piece of the information out so we're not duplicating information. But yeah, it's definitely not a
Yeah,
requirement. Yeah, we're
sure.
seeing more and more that just don't use the actual platform.
Interesting. So, and I mean, this is another full question. Um, but so for say I'm a business and I don't use Dynamics.
Mhm.
What sort of speak to the business value? What sort of business value adds are there in still utilizing the low code platform, like the low code power platform, and the why that would still be beneficial for a company like mine to use?
It allows you to scale quicker. You're not relying on another platform. You can build different pieces. Let's say you have a desire or a need to automate something, and instead of putting in or implementing an entire platform, you can implement some sort of an automation, whether it's a bot or whatever you're doing. It's a lot faster than implementing an entire system. So that's definitely one of the benefits. It also allows you to adapt quicker to changes. So let's say you're working in a business. I don't know. Let's take a car changing, tire changing business or something of that sort. And let's say a requirement on a size of a tire changes. It's so easy to go in and make a quick update, whereas you don't have to go in, go to the IT department, say, I need to make these changes. Maybe there's an extra step. You can make an update with an inspection. It lets you be more nimble. And I think that's really the benefit of using Power Platform is it lets you be more nimble. As long as you do it the
Yeah.
right way, being nimble is good.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so you need to be nimble. You need to be able to really think outside the box. Like,
Right.
obviously in CE you need to think outside the box as well, but how is the skill of thinking outside the box elevated in a situation like yourself as a part of this RSD team?
I think what it really comes down to is you know what your objective is. And you do this in CE as well. You know what the objective is. But sometimes there's a complex, something that you're doing that's really complex. And you'd think step one, step two, step three, it's very basic. But then you look at it and you're like, well, how do I implement step one, step two, step three? You have to kind of step back and not look at just what they already have. You have to be able to open up your mind to what are your other opportunities. And if you can step back and think creatively around what's happening and what they're doing, a lot of times we build pieces or things that make things better for the customer because we're able to look at the broad picture and see what other things we can move in. Like maybe we're changing an app so it works with something else that's already out there, or we're gathering information from another place so we don't have a center, something in the middle. Maybe we build a custom connector that's never been done. We have one of the best MVPs that builds connectors on our team. I think he's built more connectors than anybody else in, you know, Power Platform. So come out there and build something like that that just does something incredibly unique that nothing has ever done before. So it gives us if you don't think outside of the box, you're going to build this basic, you know, vanilla app that just works. Whereas if we can think outside that box and look at what else we have and how things are surrounded, then we can go in and build a really spectacular application and give them a good indication of what they can do, the power of Power Platform.
Yeah. What are some I don't know if you've thought about this, but what are maybe some other additional skills outside of thinking outside of the box that are necessary to be a really good consultant or to be a really good architect working with the Power Platform outside of Dynamics?
I think the most important thing when you're working with Power Platform is to understand you're never going to know everything. You're gonna run into something so silly that you just don't know how to get around, and you have to be able to utilize your resources and know how to ask a question to actually get an answer for something. We've run into so many little things that seem to work, or I can't get this box to align, and it's usually something silly, but you have to understand that you're going to get defeated by that app every now and again, and you're just going to have to kind of power through it and figure out how to fix those things. And I that's the best part of a job, is trying to figure out those things that you've not been able to figure out before. So having the ability to say, "Yep, I need help," or "I've run into this weird thing. Has anybody else experienced it?" And then kind of getting together and maybe doing a little bit of, you know, I don't know if you want to call it, you know, group development or something like that, and just trying to beat down the problem a little bit so you can understand what you need to do to fix it.
Yeah.
So I think that's incredibly important with this job. Also, the ability to creatively talk to somebody and say, geez, you're telling me one thing, but I'm going to ask you the question a little bit differently to get kind of to the bottom of things. And I think that's one thing that consultants, architects, we have such a hard time doing, is you know the client's giving you requirements, but now you need to talk to the client and say, yeah, I know you gave me that requirement, but you weren't talking about this. So let's lead this, get in a conversation, understand them, get them to, be really open with you, because sometimes they don't tell you things until they feel comfortable telling you that, hey, I have a really hard time with this. We need to change this. And you just sometimes don't get that with just that sterile conversation that you initially have with people. And I think
Yeah.
that's one thing that I do with clients that a lot of people sometimes struggle with, is just trying to figure out how to, I don't know if you want to say it called become pals with them, but basically make them understand that you just want to know what makes their life better and how to get that stuff from them. And so they trust you to tell you everything instead of just randomly telling you certain things.
If you are thinking to yourself that you want to get into low code development or learn about the Power Platform, then I want to personally invite you to sign up for this completely free self-paced course that is going to cover everything you need to know to begin low code development today. Not too long ago, I was a complete beginner and I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't even know what the Power Platform was. But in just 2 years, I have gone from being an associate to a senior level consultant, and I can truly say that I love what I do. The content in this course is handpicked by me so you can understand the basics of the Power Platform and ultimately be prepared to take the PL 900 certification if that's something you're interested in. If you are interested, be sure to follow the first link in the description down below, and do not forget to use the promo code YouTube at checkout in order to get the course for completely free. This is going to give you immediate access to the entire course so that you can start to change your future today. Now, let's get back to the conversation. Yeah, like you take a very, human approach, not just like I'm the professional here and I speak like I'm a lawyer. Like you come
Right.
down to earth a little bit, meet them where they're at. Ask, find creative ways to ask questions. I think that's something that's really interesting, and maybe last kind of question on this topic is, you mentioned that you kind of have these group development sessions or like group brainstorming sessions of like, hey, how can we, let's get a couple people together. How can we do this? What does that practically look like? I wonder if there's, people maybe listening that are thinking, man, I wish my company had an opportunity to, get these, spontaneous group think sessions up and running. What does that kind of look like practically, and that things that you found success and ways to do those?
You build your network obviously within the company, but really what it comes down to is that I can talk to, I don't know, I'm going to name drop here. If I have a question on something that's happening, I can call Ramiro and say, hey, I'm having this little problem. Can we just jump on a quick call and see if we can get this figured out? And then we're working for 5, 10 minutes, like, oh man, this is really weird. Let's see if we can call so and so and get them to come in on the conversation. And so what we'll do is you just know who is really good at certain things. So I'd call him any day of the week for, let's say, a Canvas app or a custom page. Troy Taylor, I call him any moment in time for any problem I have with the custom connector because man, he's just the best. So really it's just a matter of not being afraid to reach out and say, hey, I don't know what's going on here. I can't figure this out. I need some help. And I think that's one thing that people there takes a hit in their pride when they have to call out and reach out for help. But honestly, it's the easiest way to do it because that builds your connections. It builds that camaraderie where other people aren't scared to call you and ask you a question. I don't care how silly the question is. I mean, when Microsoft changed the whole CE thing over to a totally different platform, it's like I've got people who haven't done configuration for years calling me up and saying, "How do I get into security?" So it's not a pride thing. I don't think any place, consulting, architecting, I don't think there's any reason for you to ever think that getting somebody else's opinion on something is a bad thing. It doesn't reflect poorly. It just shows that you are, courageous enough to go out there and confident enough to say, hey, I just need a little bit of help. Did I make the right decision here? And I think that's been the most important thing. And I use people all the time. I call Brandy I constantly about, hey, I'm doing this. Does this make sense to you? And then use them just as more of a, somebody to bounce something off of.
Yeah, absolutely. Brandy, if you're still listening, you're the goat. All right, we'll transition the conversation here. I think that's great, Tanya. I think everything you're saying there is on point and things that I feel like in my experience are very true as well. I mean, I am not afraid to talk about on the show that I don't have decades of experience in different things. So you oftentimes there's stuff that understandably I don't know, right? And so I need to reach out. And I don't think, at least not to my face, nobody has shot me down or been rude or been unwelcoming, right? And I think that I totally get it. I think setting a culture where everyone's just kind of, everyone's rowing in the boat. We're all trying to go the same way, whether I'm on your project or not or whatever, like we're all just trying to, help and deliver value and bill. So it's like, however we can best do that is, and you kind of pay it forward. But all right, nonetheless, I would love to transition the conversation. Something that I did not mention as a part of your intro was something you had told me of like how you actually started your career kind of before getting into what you kind of do now was you started as you called it a support person for a marketing software company. I mean, that was then acquired by. Is my notes correct that it was acquired by Microsoft, this marketing company, marketing software company? Would you mind just like sharing a little bit more about this experience and kind of the
Sure.
the story of Tanya?
Yeah, I've done so many different things as I went through my career. I worked as a network administrator at a company and got tired of the, you know, 365, 24/7, 365. So I decided, there's this little marketing company that's got this marketing software that they've built that was looking for a support person. Did I know anything about marketing when I started there? Nope, not a thing.
Yeah.
Um, I'm really good at figuring things out and I'm really good at finding issues. And it was a development company. So I basically came on as here, you're the support person. So when clients call you, figure out what the problem is. Um, it was one of those things that I knew was a 9 to 5 job, 9 to 5 gig. Didn't tell them I knew anything about, computers. Didn't tell them I had an A+ certificate. Didn't tell them anything. They just knew that I was going to do support and I knew something about computers. So I started working there and I did that for, I don't know, 9, 10 years. And while we were doing this, we're developing the software to, pull in accounting. I had some, accounting background. I know something about marketing at that point because I started taking classes on it because how are you supporting a marketing software when you know anything about marketing? So started doing that, learning the lingo. And all of a sudden we got going and all these talks are happening and then Microsoft acquired us. So I was doing basically all of the support for this company and doing all the QA. So doing that stuff. And once Microsoft came on board, I was managing all the servers because we were doing hosted support, hosted environments for people. So we'd set them up on our server blades and I'd set up the machines and whatever else. So Microsoft needed somebody to take over that part of the business and then learn how to, patch all this, do all the patching of the servers and whatnot at Microsoft and take over certain pieces. So I got worked at Microsoft for about a year doing that and decided that really wasn't what I wanted to do. They'd asked me to move to Seattle and I had no desire to move. So I was laid off for a period of time and met, I think it was John Petroselli. And he's like, hey, you know about this software, this marketing software stuff. What do you think about coming to Hitachi and becoming a consultant, a CE consultant? And I'm like, what's CE?
Yeah.
So at that moment in time, I started to learn what CE was. And the first year of my life at Hitachi was spent traveling around the world teaching Microsoft employees about Dynamics marketing. So,
Okay.
yeah,
So
and
this sorry, I don't mean to interrupt
yeah,
you. This
go
begs the
ahead.
question. So were there I'm thinking I'm Microsoft. There's this marketing software company who has this outstanding software and a particularly amazing support person. They were there remnants of this marketing software from this company that got like that kind of morphed into the Dynamics marketing app, or was it just kind of like a an acquisition? I don't know. Like my mind goes to they acquired this marketing software company and then was able to utilize some of those resources and maybe IP that they had developed within
Mhm.
the marketing app. Is that true?
It is true. They had to make some major changes. I mean, we were a boutique marketing software company. So when they took it over, they did make some changes. And really, I think for the first 2, 3 years that they had acquired it, it just wasn't where it needed to be in order to be an enterprise marketing solution. They've made a lot of changes since then, a lot of good changes. So it's really been helpful. But the problem was is that they developed this thing and they put it in the software and nobody knew anything about it. so so we actually I developed that Microsoft test for the marketing. I was one of the people who helped design the questions on that marketing test. So it was an interesting transition. We kept There was another support person that worked along with me and they kept him on for I guess almost 2 years after that so that he could help support the current clientele so they could get them moved over to the new marketing software. But we all know where that probably didn't go quite that way because it was a little bit more pricey than our software was. So it was an interesting transition. The culture at Microsoft was a little bit different than I liked. I'm a small shop person. Working at a company that's that big was like, yeah, not really my style. So yeah, when I came over, it's like I said, I knew nothing about CE. I learned really quick. That's one of my things. When I was their support person, I didn't know anything about their software. Took my first support call my first day. They never trained me after that. I learned really quickly about those types of things. So when I started at Hitachi, it was throwing me in to firefights where I could come in and something was going to the left and I'd help bring it back to center. I was on 8 to 10 projects a time, just trying to get things back into place. So it took me a while, but I really love that. I like getting thrown into a mix, not knowing what the issue is and coming in. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's been an interesting transition.
Oh my goodness. What? It sounds like a lot of fun, creative problem solving that was
Hmm.
just thrown thrown at you. Um,
It was.
I will say too, from my perspective, so I don't have a ton of experience with marketing. I was recently on an implementation where they were looking to kind of revamp their marketing and sales, and they really, and this is kind of the new marketing or the customer insights journeys, and they really don't use, I would say, the majority of the capabilities. They really just use a couple of them. But it was a super cool learning opportunity, specifically like learning about Microsoft, the not the Microsoft forms, but the forms within the customer insights journeys app, the segments, the journeys, and stuff like that. So I definitely feel like I think I'm due for a certification. So I'm thinking I'm just gonna, maybe over the next couple weeks, start studying for whatever the MB, whatever the number is, to whatever, 240 maybe, and really start to soak that up. So I think that's super cool because I feel like marketing, it's yeah, it's a part of CE, but it's also like I don't know, it's like the odd man out, I guess. I feel
It's its
like.
own beast.
Yeah, yeah. We had
And
a lot of different.
marketers,
Go
I'm
ahead.
telling you one thing, man, marketers are crazy. They marketing is so imperative to an organization. Sales and marketing, two big things. They're always together typically, but marketers are very protective of their processes. And I think that's one thing that we sometimes struggle with when we're trying to help them implement something is to understand all the little idiosyncrasies that they need, all the reporting that they're looking for, the insights that they have, the different journeys, and having them understand how to get information from the journeys that make sense. And that's one thing that I think if you can speak marketing to marketers, they're more apt to be more cooperative with giving you the information that they need. If you don't know what they're talking about when they're talking about the stuff that they're doing, you're just never going to get anything out of them because they're not going to ever trust that you have a clue what they really do.
Yeah,
And that's the hard part about marketing.
yeah. Super, super cool. I don't know if you have anything else to add there, but and you were kind of starting to bring up this next topic. When we were talking about just skills and creative and problem solving and everything kind of being thrown at you. I guess I'll start the question by this way. I would love to know how you have been able to grow your career in the way that you have. Really in a matter of 10 years, going from not knowing what CE is to now being a director of the RSD practice, where I know you are a proud lifelong learner, and obviously everything you're talking about was drinking from the fire hose, right? Just learning as fast as you possibly can. If you could speak to how this skill and this mindset has impacted your career in such a positive way, I think that'd be awesome.
I think for me, what it was is I don't care what challenge somebody throws at me, I'm going to take it head on and figure it out. And if you're not scared to do something in a little bit off the beaten path of what you're used to doing, you're going to succeed in everything that you do. I remember one time I was asked to do a project that they couldn't really find anybody. They didn't have anybody with the specialty, but it's like, hey, do you know anything about X? And it was happened to be insurance, and it happened to be um, just some crazy concepts of a farm bureau, basically. And I'm like, yeah, no, never done it. But you know what? Yes, if as long as we don't start for a couple weeks, I'll figure it out. Had all the lingo down, went and talked to him. Sounded like I'd been in the insurance business for years because I was able to just kind of go in there, put my nose to the grindstone and figure this stuff out. If I was, 10 years ago, would I have said, can I do this? I would have said, geez, I don't know anything about it, but I just need some time. And that's what I do today. I don't know anything about certain things, but you know what? Everybody can learn. And I think that's as long as you don't put yourself into a specific box, you can succeed in anything you do. And as long as you're not afraid to take on new challenges and say, yeah, I'll look at it and say, figure this out and see if there's, maybe somebody can mentor me on how to do, X. I Power Automate has been the bane of my existence for I don't know how long. I just can't figure out the logic of it. It just doesn't make sense on why you pick certain things to do certain things. What do? You take the most complex thing you can and build it in Power Automate. Have somebody else take a look at it and tell you what you did wrong and then fix it. Um, I just don't know if I would have been able to do that, 25 years ago, but 10 years ago when you're starting a new company, trying new different things, if you don't continue to learn and you don't continue to follow, like the Copilot, the Power BI, and understand some of those things, I just don't know if it's possible to continue advancing in your career because then you're so limited in what your knowledge is. You just don't know that, yeah, this process, can you do it with a classic workflow? Sure. Can you do it with Power Automate? Sure. Has to be done this way. Should we be using a plugin or should we be using a, web root or whatever, Azure functions? If you don't understand what those things do, you're never going to be able to make that decision properly. And I think that's as long as you put yourself in that box. I think that's what made it so I could continue moving forward.
Yeah, I think there's kind of two skills I think that I've talked about on the show, and that I think I believe in is like the two most important skills I think that someone should have. One, which we're not talking about, is like how to actually be a good communicator, and like actually communicate ideas well. But two is to like understand how to learn. I think like a lot of times, and I mean, if someone's this far into this episode, I'm sure they like to learn. That's why they're still listening. But I think a lot of times people, and maybe not so much once you kind of grow out of it, but you know, especially like you kind of believe if you're a good learner or not, like from maybe your experience in school or whatever. And I think that like understanding that the ability to learn for the most part is a skill. Like if you can understand and like really teach yourself how to learn something, right? I think that like for myself that was huge in learning maybe how I learn, right? Or how I'm able to maybe focus and yeah, put my head to the grindstone and just learn something, because obviously we all learn in different ways. But I think that's super cool. I also wanted to ask you, you said in getting to know you, I wrote this down. You said everyone you work with allows you to learn something dot dot dot. So ominous. Good or bad. Take it all in and figure out how to put it into practice. Um, I want to give you the floor here, but first I want to throw in my 2 cents. Um, I think this is very true in that like on teams that you might work with, for myself, I might work with really great other consultants or um, consultants that have plenty of room for improvement, or really great architects or architects that have room for improvement. And I remember I felt like I was in a situation where I was working with someone that had room for improvement, and somebody was asking me like, "Oh, how's this, how's that, whatever," and I was a little, upset at the time because it's like, oh, this person's making my life harder. But at the same time, I remember like thinking to myself, I'm also learning, maybe okay, what are some good things to do and what are some bad things to do, right? And unfortunately, from this person's potentially bad example. So I don't know. Like I said, I'm throwing my 2 cents in there. What are your thoughts on, or maybe a good story? No name drops here, all right, but maybe a
Yep.
good story on times where you learn from good influences and bad influences.
Well, I found that my work ethic, I don't know if any if you know what my work ethic is. I'm one of those people who I can't stop. And sometimes I found, and this is me being a bad influence at some point, um, what I do sometimes is I get on a project, I have incredibly capable consultants or an incredibly capable coworker, whatever it was. And sometimes I just don't let them handle some of the harder stuff because I don't want them to fail. So it took me a while to learn as an architect that I need to allow the person below or the other consultants on the project to learn through doing. And it's something that I always like to, somebody has an issue with something, I don't just do it for them. I walk them through it. I help them through it. That's something I learned from one of the first people I worked with here as an architect. And it was more of, hey, Tanya, you've only been doing this for a couple of years. You're talking to these people, they're not listening to you. You're saying the right things, but I want you to break through. And I need you to take on some things that you're not so comfortable with. And that's what I learned from that person when I started on my first real project. And it was a challenging project for me because it was trying to find my way as a consultant. And once I found my way as a consultant, I learned also that if there was something that somebody else was doing that was bothering me or that I didn't agree with, to find a way to have that conversation, an honest conversation, and be honest with them that, hey, I'm struggling with the way you're communicating with me. How do we fix this? How can I tell you more about what I need you to give me in order to be me to be successful and turn you be successful? And really what that boiled down to is that you have to swallow a little bit of pride in trying to figure out, maybe I need to be the one that brings it up because maybe that person just doesn't even know that they're doing something that they're doing. And I find that having that open and honest conversation with somebody is kind of the door that opens to this whole new relationship with somebody. And anyone who knows me knows that don't ask me an opinion unless you want the honest answer, because I'm just blunt, right, honest about things. Customers do the same thing. I'm honest with customers. I can't just feed them a line of, oh, yeah, it's done, and finishing it as I'm talking to them. I just can't do that. So I learned from good people and bad people how to work with customers, what not to say. You can't be scared to say, I don't know. And I think that's one of the most important things I've learned along the way from people is I've heard people say, you know, I've got this answer is blah, blah, blah. They're talking for an hour about something. And it's like, dude, you just told them the wrong thing. Um, Bad habits that somebody else had, I wanted to make sure I didn't pick up. So then I can continue being more successful and clients, you know, they react better to being told, I don't know, instead of getting told, oh, I told you the wrong thing.
Yeah.
So it's, you learn different things. You pick them up from people, habits. I'm a terrible note taker. I take Tanya notes, I call them. I know exactly what they say. Somebody else looks at them and they're like, who wrote this and what were you on when you did it? So I'm incredibly honest with any consultant that I work with or somebody else that I work with that I say, hey man, I take terrible notes. I need you to help me out with that because that's one of my major faults. I mean, somebody else says, I take great notes. And then you look at their notes and it's like, yeah, you don't know how to take notes either. So it's it's different things. You just learn the people that you're working with and what they're what they're really good at and what they're not good at. And I think that's really, as long as you can identify, this is a good habit to have and this is a bad habit to have, you can still succeed with what you're doing. It's if you can't identify that, yeah, this person's doing something bad, then that's when you run into a problem.
Yeah. No, I think if I added anything to that, it would take it just take away from it. I did want to say, kind of one last thing here. In your intro, I mentioned that you had a passion for helping other people succeed. Now, I kind of wanted to, and you were kind of talking about this, that a lot of times you need to like empower maybe consultants or people you're working with or people with who maybe don't have as much experience. You need to empower them to do things, potentially fail and everything. I mean, how do you think that this mindset as well, this idea of helping other people succeed has also helped you in your career?
Honestly, the reason I feel so I'm very passionate about that, and the reason being is because somebody gave me the opportunity when I started to be successful. I'm terrible at taking compliments. I will praise my team left and right before I take my own accomplishment because I just know I can do better. And there's always a higher bar, and I don't know why that is. I'm awful. My reviews never have an exceed on them. I can't do it because I always know that there was something I could have done better. Somebody else may have been struggling on the project. What else could I do to help them out? I think that's really what I try to do is talk to the people that I'm working with and say, hey, what do you want out of this project? What do you want out of this, me working with you? Do you want me to just hand it over and say, here you go, and I can just be a reference? How can I empower you to do more? How can I help you advance your career? And then once I know that information, then I can help them work their way up for what they want to do. Or if they want to take more control over something or be the lead, then I want to give them that opportunity so then they can continue advancing. Because I think if we don't challenge our people, we're never going to get to a place where we can all be, you know, delivering a quality solution to our customers. I think we'd be failing our customers if we didn't do that.
Yeah. No, I completely agree, and I resonate a lot with someone, took a chance on me in a sense. I obviously wasn't an expert day one, and allowed me to fail and to build flows that were horrible and to figure out how to make the simplest business rule on the planet. But just yeah, so I love that and that sentiment that you have there, and I really appreciate. I know that people like myself or like you, when you look back on it, you're always like, "Dang, I didn't even know like how impactful this person's decision to support my growth would have ended up being, right? Like the the opportunities that I had. We've talked about the launch program and stuff on this podcast before and stuff, but like, for myself, that's sort of an opportunity, and now I have a potential to have an entire career, right, that supports myself, my family, whatever, all because of somebody took 12 weeks to pour into me, right? And so I love that. I think that's awesome. I don't know if you have anything else to add there before I move us off to our the after hours happy hour. You're good.
Now let's go on to the
All
after
right,
hours.
welcome to the after hours happy hour section of the show where we sit back, kick our feet up, and talk about anything but work. In getting to know you, Tanya, you pretty passionately talked about how you love Legos. Now, um, I like to think that growing up I was a Lego connoisseur myself, but I know it's a landslide. You got me beat. What are we talking here with Legos? What's going on?
Well, right behind me, you see a Lego map with thousands of
Oh my
individual
goodness, I
pieces.
didn't even realize that was Legos. Oh my gosh.
Yep, that map is all Lego. The globe back there, all Lego.
Very cool.
Um, I've built the Titanic. I've built the Millennium Falcon, the huge Millennium
Mhm.
Falcon, the Eiffel Tower, so we can do the Paris Olympics down in my little Lego room.
Yeah, so do
But
you have
yeah,
like a whole room, like a Lego
I
room where
do.
you got it all
I have a whole
everything
room.
built and set up and
Yeah, piano, the Bugatti, the James, what's his face, 007 cars. Yeah, no,
ah,
I've got probably 1,000 sets
oh
at
my
least.
goodness. That
Yeah,
is so
it's
cool.
it's fun. It's one of those things that you can just sit down and my mind needs to be doing something. And when I'm putting Lego together, it's one of those things that's so much fun. We decorate the entire Christmas tree as Lego ornaments. So,
Wow.
yeah, it's kind of a lifestyle, but I've been I always tell people, I said I'm just a 10-year-old with a really good job.
That's so cool.
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
I would love this, this space up here is for the Millennium Falcon one day, the big one, put it on the wall. Who knows? I would love to nerd out over something like that. And yeah, it's funny. I grew up where I don't know, it sounds like, you have these sets that you build and you kind of add them to your collection, but growing up, obviously you're a kid, your imagination's going crazy. Me and my brother, every dollar we got, which I mean wasn't much, we were kids, right? But every single dollar for Christmas money or whatever would go to some Lego set, generally a Star Wars Lego set or like an Indiana Jones Lego set. And so, but over time, we'd have a lot of the ships and stuff, but we would end up breaking them down. So we had these like huge, just like custom bases, I guess,
Yeah.
where we would build
Yep.
buildings and we had little soldiers and ships and trucks and like you'd get the little jewels and stuff in some. So there were treasures, we had our own little safes and all sorts of stuff. We had our, and then, I mean, I like to think as the older brother, my base was always better, but no, it's good. I love Legos. That's what's up.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I'd love to figure out who I could take that's as big as geek as I am with Legos and go on Lego Masters or something. That'd be so much fun.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah, like the your dream job was it one day being those people that make like the huge Lego sets in like the mall and different things, like
Yep,
the Lego stores. So they got these probably million pieces. That'd be pretty
100%.
cool.
I'd love to build that huge dragon. I
Yeah.
I'll never forget we were down in downtown Manhattan one time and right across the street from the company, the place that we were working was a huge Lego store. I sent home like $700 worth of Lego. It cost me almost more to ship the darn things
Yeah.
home, but they had some really awesome sets, but they had this really cool dragon in there. It was probably 30 feet long. It was amazing. And I'm thinking, man, if I could do that for a living, I mean, my fingers would be raw, but man, I'd be the happiest person on
Yeah.
earth.
So cool. I gotta wonder, like, there's no way, like, the whole inside is Lego too. You think, or is it just like
I
is it
often
just like a
wondered,
shell of
yeah, I
Legos?
often wondered, and I did ask somebody once, I'm like, so, is this whole thing, is it a solid Lego set? Some of them are, some of them aren't. But if you don't put Lego all the way through something that big, it's not going to be, you know, stable enough
Mm,
to put up as a display in a store. So I think a lot of it's just a nice big square that they build off of, and then they come off the sides. So
yeah,
it's kind of cool. I'd love to
very
do
cool.
it. That would
Yeah.
be definitely one of those things that, yeah, if I could quit my job today and start building Legos and like that, yeah, I would do that in a heartbeat.
That's so fun. Tanya, it's been great having you on the show and just getting to know you and a little bit of your story and things that you care about. If people wanted to connect with you in some way, what would be the best way that they could do
Well, email, call. Tell you everybody's got my phone number that's worked with me.
that? That's funny.
That's the
I'll,
one
I'll
thing.
yeah, I'll be
Go
sure
ahead.
to put your LinkedIn as well in
Yep.
the show notes as well. Again, thank you for being here. This has been
Yeah,
good.
it's been fun. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you for sticking to end the video. My name is Griffin Lickfeld, the host of Citizen Developer, and I'm excited to connect with you in